Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to constantly explain yourself, to defend your choices as if your life needs someone else's stamp of approval? Every time you bend your truth to be understood, a little of your peace, your clarity, and your inner strength slips away. Here's the quiet truth. The harder you chase validation, the further you drift from your own center. And yet, there's a strange beauty in this, because the moment you stop begging to be seen is often the moment people start to notice. Buddhist wisdom reminds us, stop searching outside for recognition and turn inward for awakening. True power doesn't come from demanding attention. It comes from living in such alignment that your presence speaks before your voice ever does. When you focus inward, not from pride, but from awareness, you begin to shift. You react less, you need less, and without effort, you carry a calm strength that others can't quite put into words. This journey is for those who are done being drained by opinions, criticism, or rejection. So ask yourself, what if your silence could carry more power than your explanations? What if you stopped chasing and simply started becoming? Stay with me until the very end, because I'll share a rarely spoken habit that, once embraced, can quietly astonish everyone around you without a single word. 1. The unspoken power of stillness. What if the greatest truths you carry were never meant to be spoken? In today's world, noise is often mistaken for strength. People talk louder, post more, and rush to be heard. But in the quiet heart of Buddha's teaching, there is a different kind of wisdom. Stillness is the mark of true strength. Imagine a vast mirror-like lake at dawn. The water is so calm that the sky's reflection appears untouched. In that stillness, there is more truth than in 1,000 hurried words. Yet how often do we abandon our own calm just to answer back, to defend ourselves, to win an argument that doesn't need to be fought? You don't have to prove your worth. The mountain does not chase the clouds. It doesn't explain its silence to the wind. It simply stands rooted, unshaken, unbothered by the passing storms. This is the quiet return, turning inward not to shut the world out, but to come home to yourself. In Buddhism, silence is not emptiness. It is a living presence, untouched by noise. Try it now, just 2 minutes without music, without screens, without words. Not to escape the world, but to meet the world from within. What emerges in that space? You'll find that stillness isn't hollow. It's the ground where your truth takes root. Yet in the modern world, stillness is misunderstood. People call it weakness, withdrawal, or avoidance. But those who have walked the path know it takes courage to remain calm, discipline to withhold reaction, and strength to listen without rushing to speak. And here's what unsettles people. When you stop explaining yourself, when you no longer defend your boundaries or justify your solitude, they can't make sense of it. That's because real peace is not a performance. It's something cultivated, breath by breath. Ask yourself with compassion, have you been filling your days with noise to avoid hearing what's inside? Or could your silence be the doorway to healing, to clarity, to transformation? The Buddha said, "The wise who live in meditation find perfect peace and freedom, not by speaking over the world, but by listening deeply to life itself." Let today mark your return, not through grand announcements, but through the way you live. Let your calm be your answer. Let your life be your quiet revolution. And in that stillness, watch how the world begins to notice, without you ever asking it to. 2. The courage to release. Why is it that the tighter we hold, the more it hurts? We cling because we fear what comes after change, endings, the unknown self that might emerge without the things we've grown used to. Yet the harder we grasp, the more our peace slips away. Like trying to hold water in a clenched fist, it escapes, leaving the hand empty and the heart weary. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that release is not surrender. It is courage in its quietest form. To let go of something that once shaped you is not defeat. It is giving yourself the space to grow, to heal, to breathe again. Often the wound is not caused by what has left, but by our unwillingness to let it go. What we cling to can cut us. What we release can lift us. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture one burden, one memory, one attachment resting heavy in your heart. Now imagine placing it gently into a flowing stream. Watch the current carry it away. No struggle, no resistance. This is the way of the wise. They do not wrestle with the river. They trust its course, knowing that what is meant to stay will remain, and what must leave will drift away. Still, the mind protests. It whispers, "What if I need this? What if I am nothing without it?" But this is an illusion. What truly belongs to you will never require your desperate grip. It stays because it is part of you. What departs does so to create space for something truer, lighter, more aligned with who you are becoming. Ask yourself softly, what am I holding that is already asking to be set free? Is it a relationship, an identity, or an old version of myself? Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not in holding on, but in letting go without anger, without spectacle, without explanation. The Buddha taught, you only lose what you cling to. And when you no longer fear what falls away, you rise stronger, steadier, freer than before. Others may not understand your peace. They may wonder why you no longer fight, why you no longer chase, but it is because you have stopped grasping and begun flowing. You have chosen to focus inward, not in bitterness, but in purpose. You let go not to run away, but to grow into who you truly are. And when you do, something remarkable happens. Your energy shifts, your life rebalances, and you begin to move through the world with a lightness that surprises those around you. In the end, you will not be remembered for how tightly you held on, but for the grace with which you opened your hand and trusted the river to carry you home. 3. The strength of unshakable. Calm. What if the clearest boundary you could ever set was your own peace? In a world that thrives on noise and quick reactions, people expect you to answer immediately, to match their energy, to join their storm. But in the heart of Buddhist wisdom lies a quieter truth. Peace is not surrender. It is strength in its purest form. The ability to remain steady in moments of provocation is not weakness. It is mastery. A torch does not argue with the wind, it simply keeps burning. Your calm is not the absence of power. It is the proof of it. Picture a candle in a storm, its flame steady not because it fights the wind, but because it protects its own light. You can be that candle. Choosing not to be disturbed doesn't mean you are detached from life. It means you are free within it. When someone tries to drag you into chaos, you have a choice. You don't need to defend every truth or respond to every shadow that passes your way. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to say nothing. Sometimes the greatest move is stillness. We're taught to prove, to justify, to explain. But the moment you stop reacting, everything changes. People notice, they question, why are you not answering? Why are you so still? And in that stillness, they encounter something they can't control. You are no longer at the mercy of the outside world. You are anchored in yourself. Try this. The next time you feel pressure rising within you, pause. Take one slow breath. Create just a moment between the feeling and your response. That space is your sanctuary. That pause is your wisdom. And in that quiet, you'll meet the truest version of yourself. Ask yourself gently, who am I when I don't react? Who am I when I no longer need to defend or explain? You are not the noise, you are the awareness that hears it. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. And when you learn to be the witness instead of the fighter, your energy shifts, your vision clears, and your path becomes light. The Buddha said, "Those who are free of resentful thoughts surely find peace." So let your peace be your boundary, not in walls or sharp words, but in a clarity that says, "I will not go where my peace cannot follow." Practice non-reaction, not to win, but to remain rooted in your truth. Some won't understand, some will push harder, but over time they will see. There is nothing more striking than a person who cannot be shaken. Let your stillness speak louder than any reply. Because in a noisy world, the calmest soul becomes the one voice that truly echoes. 4. You are not required to explain yourself. Why does constant explanation leave the soul so weary? There's a unique kind of fatigue that comes from feeling you must justify every decision, your silence, your changes, your path forward. It's as if the world expects a reason for every breath you take. But here's the truth. You are not here to explain yourself to everyone. The tree does not debate with the storm about why it stands still. It sways when the wind demands, stands firm when the ground holds, and grows quietly without announcing every leaf. You too can expand without broadcasting every step. So much energy is wasted trying to prove you are kind, capable, wise, or right. True peace begins when you stop explaining yourself to those determined not to understand. The Buddha did not travel from home to home justifying his awakening. He lived his truth with patience and presence, and those ready to see followed. Like the moon, you have phases. Some nights you are full and bright. Other nights you retreat into shadow. Both are natural. Both are sacred. You do not need to explain why you've changed, why you've chosen solitude, or why your light no longer matches the noise around you. Not everyone will understand your stillness, and that's not a failure, it's freedom. You are not here to be understood by all. You are here to walk in harmony with truth. So the next time someone misreads your boundaries, your no, or your silence, let it be. Don't chase their approval. Don't rush to correct their story. Instead, notice what your quiet teaches you about where your energy truly belongs. In that pause, something priceless returns your focus, your calm, your inner authority. Ask yourself gently, who am I trying to convince and why? Is my need for validation born from love or from fear? When your attention shifts from proving your worth to protecting your peace, you become unshakable. Not because you've closed your heart, but because you've mended it. The Buddha said, "A man is not called wise because he talks and talks again. But if he is peaceful, loving, and fearless, then he is in truth called wise." Wisdom doesn't defend itself. It doesn't seek permission. It simply radiates. And those meant to feel it will understand, even in silence. So turn your focus inward, not to shut others out, but to deepen your own roots. Let the world think what it will. Let the noise come and go. You are not here to persuade, you are here to become. And in that quiet becoming, you will astonish more than you ever could with words. 5. Master yourself or be led by the world. Why is it that a single harsh word can ruin an entire day? Why can one failure crush your spirit or one person's opinion shake your confidence? This is the quiet suffering of living at the mercy of everything outside yourself. When you have not anchored your mind, the world will pull you in every direction, often without you even noticing. Buddhist wisdom has long offered the same truth. Master yourself or be mastered by the world. Your mind is not your enemy. Yet when left unchecked, it behaves like a wild horse. Powerful, fast, but unpredictable. It bolts not toward your dreams, but away from your peace. It can trample your intentions, scatter your focus, and leave you exhausted. A wild horse cannot lead a caravan. It creates only chaos. But once it is guided with patience and steady hands, it becomes a force of quiet strength. In the same way, you must learn to take the reins of your mind. Begin by noticing your reactions, not with judgment, but with awareness. The next time a thought rushes in or an emotion rises like a wave, pause. Ask yourself gently, who is steering this moment, me or my emotion? Each pause is a victory. Each moment of deliberate choice, rather than automatic reaction, is a step out of the prison of reactivity and into the freedom of self-mastery. Most people live as captives of their own feelings. They say, "This is just who I am," or "I couldn't help it." But that is an illusion. Every emotion is a guest, every thought a passing cloud. And you are the sky, vast and unmoved, deciding whether to follow or to let it drift away. So ask yourself quietly, do I act or do I merely react? When your actions come from alignment, they are deliberate, grounded, and powerful. But when life is only a series of reactions, you become like a leaf, tossed by the wind, never still, never certain, never free. The Buddha said, "Though one should conquer 1,000,000 men in battle, he who conquers himself is the greatest of conquerors." Self-mastery is not rigid control, it is compassionate awareness. It is knowing your own patterns, your own triggers, your own peace, and choosing to move with wisdom rather than compulsion. Focus inward not to escape the world, but to meet it with clarity. You don't need to run from life. You only need to stop letting life rule you. And when you do, something changes. Your steps become slower but surer. Your voice softens, yet carries more weight. You begin to choose calm over chaos, and people take notice not because you demand it, but because your presence has shifted. The one who has mastered themselves needs no crown. Their very being speaks of power. 6. Letting go because you truly care. What if caring deeply didn't mean holding on tightly? Many of us mistake attachment for love. We think that to prove our care, we must be involved in every detail, guiding every outcome, shaping every moment. But Buddhist wisdom offers another path. Let go not out of indifference, but because your care runs deeper than control. Real love is spacious. It gives others the freedom to grow at their own pace. It does not bind, it does not demand, it does not insist on shaping someone into what we think they should be. Attachment often hides a quiet fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of uncertainty. True care is fearless. It trusts that what is meant to remain will remain without being gripped. Think of a wise gardener. They do not tug at the petals to make a flower bloom faster. They water, they nourish, they watch patiently. They care not through force, but through gentle presence. And yet, the mind resists. It whispers, "If I loosen my hold, things will fall apart. If I stop controlling, I'll lose what matters most." But has control ever brought lasting peace? Or has it only made your love conditional? The moment you release the need to manage every detail, something new begins to grow, a softer strength, a clearer understanding. You see others not as projects to be completed, but as whole beings exactly where they are. Try this today. Choose one person in your life and see them without expectation, not wishing they were different, not waiting for them to become more attentive, more available, more perfect. Simply witness them as they are. Notice how that quiet acceptance changes your own energy. Notice how it opens your heart. Ask yourself gently, am I attached to this person or to the story I want them to fulfill? Am I loving them or trying to heal my past through them? When the story falls away, what remains is truth. And in that truth, love becomes lighter, purer, freer. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." Letting go is not the death of love. It is the rebirth of love without fear. A love that doesn't demand. A love that doesn't suffocate. A love that doesn't require constant proof to feel real. Turn your focus inward, not to separate from others, but to root yourself in peace. When you release control, you become fully present. You become patient. You become free. And that freedom radiates. People can feel it, even without words. Because when you stop needing to hold everything together, you become the space where everything can naturally flourish. That is the kind of love that quietly transforms the world. 7. When stillness becomes unshakable. Why does your peace seem to unsettle others? There is a quiet tension that arises when you stop reacting to the noise around you, when you no longer join the arguments, when you no longer explain your silence. When you step away from drama, you become unfamiliar to those who survive on chaos. True stillness disrupts the restless. Real peace is not emptiness, it is strength in its most refined form. Those who are unsettled may feel uneasy in its presence because it reflects something they have yet to find within themselves. A calm heart does not need to shout. It does not seek to be understood. Its very being communicates more than words ever could. In a world that thrives on noise, inner silence can feel like a challenge. It shows others what they have not mastered. A single unmoving flame in a room of restless winds becomes impossible to ignore, not because it demands attention, but because it endures. Some people are not looking for understanding, they are looking for reaction. They try to pull you into their storms to confirm that they still hold sway over your emotions. But when you choose to remain steady, to neither fight nor defend, nor collapse into their patterns, you step out of their story. You leave the script entirely. You choose presence over participation. Try this. The next time someone tests your boundaries or attempts to disturb your calm, stay steady. Not from pride and not as a silent punishment, but from truth. Observe how the chaos begins to lose its grip. Notice how it becomes clear what belongs to them and what to you. Because when your peace is no longer for display, when it is not dependent on perfect conditions, it becomes real. Ask yourself gently, does my calm remain only when the world is quiet, or does it stay with me when the room begins to shake? The true measure of peace is not how it feels on a meditation cushion, but how it holds you in moments of challenge. The Buddha taught, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. And sometimes that one word is not spoken at all, it is simply presence. Focus inward, not to escape life, but to move through it untouched by what does not serve you. The deeper your stillness, the less you are pulled into reaction. The less you react, the more you see. And in that clarity, wisdom quietly blooms. Let your calm be a mirror, not to judge, but to show others another way to live, another way to respond, another way to be. And in choosing that way, you may find you have become the strongest person in the room without ever raising your voice. 8. Quiet healing, unshakable transformation. What if the truest transformation didn't need to be displayed to be real? In a culture obsessed with showing progress, it's tempting to believe that healing only counts if others can see it, measure it, or praise it. But the most profound healing, the kind that reshapes the soul, often happens in places no one else can witness. It unfolds in stillness, in private moments, in the way your breath feels softer when you wake, or in the way you choose patience where you once chose reaction. The bamboo spends years sending roots deep into the earth before a single green shoot appears above the soil, and when it finally rises, it does so with strength that surprises everyone. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to explain your absence. your new boundaries, or the peace you've found. When you heal quietly, the transformation is undeniable, not because you speak it into the world, but because you live it. Your energy shifts, your choices refine, your very presence begins to tell a story your old self could never put into words. The awakened do not rush to prove themselves. They treat the inner work like a sacred garden tended to in silence, watered with presence, protected from the noise. Roots grow in winter. The unseen work is what allows spring to bloom. Try this. Honor a private victory today. Perhaps you caught yourself before reacting. Perhaps you spoke to yourself with kindness. Perhaps you let go of something that once kept you heavy. Whatever it is, keep it to yourself. Let it be enough that you know it happened. That is how true confidence grows, not from applause, but from the integrity of your own awareness. Ask yourself gently, am I healing for my own soul or for someone else's eyes? Am I growing to be true or to be admired? There's nothing wrong with being seen, but the most enduring changes are born in silence. When you grow because your spirit refuses to remain the same, not because you want to impress, but because you want to live aligned, your transformation becomes unshakable. The Buddha said, "As a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not moved by praise or blame." True growth does not need recognition to exist. It does not falter if no one notices. It continues quietly, steadily, deeply. Let the world think you haven't changed. Let them speak of the version of you that no longer exists. It doesn't matter because transformation isn't loud, it's cellular, it's sacred, and when it's ready, it will reveal itself in ways no one can ignore. Until then, keep your roots strong, heal in stillness, and when your moment comes, rise like bamboo suddenly, powerfully, and without the need to explain. 10. Stop chasing, start becoming. Why do we run after things we may not yet be ready to hold? Much of our restlessness comes from grasping, reaching for love, success, approval, or recognition, as if they were the missing pieces of our worth. Yet in the quiet heart of Buddhist teaching rests a different truth. Do not chase, become. A ripe fruit does not call to the bee, it does not beg to be seen. It simply ripens in its own time, becoming what it is meant to be, and the bee arrives. The tree does not rush to bloom, the mountain does not move toward the clouds. It stands in its fullness, and the clouds gather around it. This is the patience of nature, the calm knowing that you are already enough. When you move from chasing to becoming, your energy shifts. You release the restless urge to grab, and instead you live as what you seek. The question changes from, how can I get this, to who should I be so this comes naturally? Whether it is peace, love, clarity, or purpose, your work is not to run after it, but to grow into it. Chasing often comes from the belief that you are incomplete, that you must earn what is already meant for you. But growth shows us something deeper. The more grounded you become, the more life comes to you, not through force, but through harmony. Try this, pause, and ask yourself what you are truly chasing beneath the surface. Is it safety, belonging, recognition, or love? Then ask, what kind of person receives that with ease? Care for that version of yourself, nourish it each day. Trust that what is meant for you will never pass you by. When you hold peace within, peace moves toward you. When you walk in love, love meets you. When you carry yourself with worthiness, the right opportunities gather without begging, without proving. The Buddha said, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you bring into life." This is not magic, it is presence. It is the steady, quiet power of someone who has stopped running and started rising. So turn inward, not to escape the world, but to shape the essence you offer to it. Let go of gripping outcomes. Become the kind of soul that no longer needs to chase. Your life will begin to shift softly, without effort, without noise, without needing permission. Like a mountain, simply rise and let the clouds gather on their own. Bonus lesson: the power of the space you leave unfilled. Have you noticed how the silent pauses in music make the notes more beautiful, or how a pause in conversation can carry more meaning than the words themselves? In life, it is often the space we leave open that holds the most power. We live in a world eager to fill every silence with words, with noise, with movement. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, not every space is meant to be filled. Some are meant to be felt. Think of a pot. Its usefulness comes not from the clay, but from the empty space inside. In the same way, the value of your presence is not only in what you say or do, but also in what you choose to leave untouched. When you resist the urge to fill every gap, you give life room to breathe. You give others space to reflect. You give yourself the gift of clarity. The most magnetic people are not those who always give more, but those who leave space for others to meet them halfway. Try this. The next time you feel the pull to rush in with answers, validation, or explanation, pause. Let the space remain. Notice how strange it feels at first. Notice how it slowly changes the energy in the room. Ask yourself gently, what might happen if I let silence speak? What might grow if I stop planting in every inch of the garden? Sometimes the space you leave unfilled holds the most power, becoming the place where trust, curiosity, and connection are born. The Buddha said, "Do not be in a hurry, for every moment has its own time. You do not need to fill every second. You do not need to have the final word. You do not need to rush the unfolding. Leave space in your life, not because you are absent, but because you are present enough to know that not everything needs your constant touch. And you will see that in this openness, life begins to meet you in ways it never could when you were trying to hold everything together." Conclusion: every teaching we explored returns to a simple truth. Your greatest strength is found within when you choose silence over reaction, when you let go instead of clinging. When you focus on becoming rather than chasing, you step into a way of living that cannot be shaken by the noise of the world. Buddhist wisdom is not about escaping life. It is about meeting it with clarity, courage, and compassion. It is about knowing when to stand steady like the mountain and when to flow gently like the river. It is about guarding your energy, honoring your stillness, and trusting the timing of your own growth. And perhaps the most surprising part, you do not need to announce your transformation. You do not need to prove your worth. The moment you stop trying to convince the world of who you are, you begin to simply be who you are. And the right people, the right opportunities, the right moments will find you naturally. So as you move forward, carry these truths like quiet lanterns. Light them when the path feels dark and let them guide you back to yourself when the noise grows loud. Remember, the calmest soul in the room is often the most powerful. Your peace is not weakness, your silence is not emptiness, and your growth is not for show. It is for you. Nurture it, protect it, and let it speak in ways words never can. If today's journey spoke to you, share in the comments. My growth speaks silently. Let this be our quiet reminder that the deepest transformations are the ones we live, not the ones we announce.